At 43 years of age, he had already risen to the highest personal rank in Uganda's police and was the face of the force as its spokesman when Assistant Inspector General of Police Felix Kaweesi was killed execution style in broad daylight with his driver and bodyguard. The whole country paused and started wondering who was safe. On the morning of March 17, 2017, after the rush hour traffic had subsided, Assistant Inspector General of Police Felix Kaweesi left his suburban home to go and deliver an inspirational talk to university students. A few seconds later, he was dead, with 17 bullets in his body and many more in those of his bodyguard and driver. Photos of his bleeding body were soon circulating on social media. The country was gripped with shock, for Kaweesi was so full of life, every day in the people's face, reassuring the public about the country's safety. An evening after Kaweesi was killed, President Museveni turned up at the deceased home for the vigil. In his address to the mourners, the president confirmed what most people had feared most, but had not been saying, that the police force had been infiltrated by criminals. Museveni further said the reason people were no longer cooperating with the police was the fear that the police officers would betray the criminals.
This is a group of people who can take these departments far in the future. But these pigs don't see the value of such people.
Although Museveni's words were chilling, the public did not imagine that criminals in the police were at very high ranks. He directed the IGP, then Kale Kayihura, to clean up the police.
There are always clues leading to who did the crime. But the security of some of these groups are infiltrated by the criminals. So you get a situation where they're intimidating the witnesses, sometimes killing witnesses. That's why the public fears to report to many of these groups. The police has been infiltrated by criminals. Kale, you must clean the police.
After Museveni's orders for a cleanup of the police, things just got worse. Dozens of young ladies were cruelly murdered after being raped in Kampala suburbs of Nansana and Entebbe, with no headway being made in investigations. Torture of people in police detention reached alarming proportions, and the police station called Nalfenya on River Nile at Jinja became a notorious torture chamber. A supporter of the ruling party, who was also mayor of Kamwenge town, was taken to hospital and photos showing holes drilled in his legs shocked the public. A few dozen people arrested, allegedly for the murder of IGP Kaweesi, also appeared in courts with obvious torture injuries. Court awarded them hundreds of millions of shillings over the torture even before the hearing of the case started. And it hasn't yet started. Hardcore criminals called Chifesi Gang, some of them self-confessed murderers, called the press and disclosed their workings with police officers. Another gang called Border 2010 was terrorizing the people, but were defended by a police team appearing before members of parliament as doing a good job. As the situation continued deteriorating, a standoff was staged in Lunguja with heavily armed policemen trying to enter a house belonging to a woman identified as a close friend to the late IGP Kaweesi. They found a strong force of internal security organization ISO, and tension prevailed until the Presidential Special Forces Command took over and the two armed groups withdrew. When it became obvious that police had lost it, the military intelligence CMI stepped in and started arresting senior police officers over dangerous crimes including abduction of refugees and forcefully returning them to the country they fled from. A senior police officer, actually a regional police commander, was arrested in connection with kidnapping and robbing foreign businessmen from Korea. However, not every police officer had kept quiet as the force was rotting. A young officer, Assistant Superintendent of Police Mohammed Chirumira, had been diligently doing his work fighting criminals in urban areas until he stepped on the toes of criminal collaborators in police. Chirumira was saved from the wrath of angry bigger officers by his benefactor, AIGP Kaweesi. After Kaweesi was murdered, Chirumira was transferred from Old Kampala, possibly the busiest police command division in Kampala, and taken to the rural Buyende division. Chirumira continued denouncing criminality in police on social media until proceedings were instituted against him by the police disciplinary committee. He was dramatically arrested after police broke into his house, gangster style, and the police court found him guilty of indiscipline and ordered his demotion by 2 ranks. Chirumira resigned from the police and started an association of survivors of torture. Justice Minister Kahindo Tafiro praised him for alerting the government and the public to the rot in the police force. Finally, President Museveni fired IGP Kale Kaihura, replacing him with Deputy IGP Okuthio Chola. CMI had continued arresting criminals allied to police, including the patron of Boda Boda 2010, Abdallah Chitata, who was being linked to a gruesome murder of a hospital accountant whose body was burnt and a few $1,000s stolen from him. Finally, former IGP Kale Kaihura was arrested by CMI on charges related to official weapons, ending up with the criminals and the abduction of Rwandan refugees. But all the arrests regarded as his tormentors of the people, he did not save Mohammed Chirumira. His plea for the official protection from possible assassination had not yet been attended to when on the 8th of September 2018, he was brutally murdered near his home alongside a lady passenger in his car. Chirumira was killed 6 months after the reshuffle in police and the arrests of senior police officers. Clearly, the cleanup is far from over as Ugandans continue to wait for a dependable police force to emerge from the rot. This episode closes Independent Uganda's unifying events. Happy 56th Independence Anniversary to all Ugandans from New Vision TV.